Greetings, everyone. Oh man, this really muffles my voice. Steve, amateur historian, how you doing? I'm recording this on June 11th, 2018, and this talking is making my mask want to fall off. So tomorrow apparently is when we're planning on starting phase 1, which I don't understand because there's been a spike in cases over the last, week, but I'm just giving you a time and a place. I wanted to... Oh my god, it's a nightmare. I wanted to get this done before tomorrow when phase 1 is potentially going to start. And all the idiots are going to start roaming around chaotically. I've been recently looking into a bunch of old God, this isn't going to work. A bunch of old murder cases. Cold cases, unsolved things, missing persons, things like that. And in my efforts, I recently discovered there are 2 unsolved cold case murders that have happened right in my neighborhood.
Steve the amateur historian.
So I'm walking along Cherry Blossom right here. This is the big retirement home, and I live just back this way, about a block that way. And I'm walking towards the light signal up here is 106th and Cherry Blossom. And right over here, just across the street from the retirement center, is a big apartment complex. So now that's Cherry Blossom behind me. There's nobody around. Yeah, so across this fence, this is a big apartment complex. It goes way up here, wraps around, and goes back for a long way. It's a massive apartment complex. And on October 31st, Halloween, the early morning hours, approximately 3 a.m., there was a guy that lived in this apartment. This complex. I don't know what unit he lived in, but he was living somewhere in here. It's massive. And around 3 a.m., he was asleep in bed with his girlfriend when, according to the girlfriend, 2 men kicked in the door, broke into their apartment. They had bandanas over their faces. Their faces were covered mostly. She said one was in his 30s, the other was probably in his early 20s. The slightly older individual was about 6'1". The younger individual was more my size, about 5'8", 5'9". And they came charging into the apartment with their faces obscured. They ran up to, they barged into the bedroom, and at that point, they'd been rousted out of sleep by the people who were, by all this commotion. And apparently Keith Roby tried to charge them, to defend themselves. Because, who are you? What are you doing in my home? The 2 men that came charging into the apartment identified themselves as police officers. They came in, identified themselves as such, had guns drawn, and then they just opened fire and shot Roby pretty much dead in his bed. The girlfriend, who was right there in bed with him, ended up getting unharmed. So that's kind of interesting to me, the fact that these guys, whoever they were, barged into this apartment, guns drawn, made a boatload of noise. I know it's the middle of the night, but this is a big apartment complex. When you make that much noise and you're firing gunshots, you're gonna wake up a lot of people. This was, even for a middle of the night thing, this is a very risky thing to do. And then the fact that they barged in and killed this one guy, with no qualms, it seems, and then they left the girlfriend alive. You'd think they would just shoot her dead too. She's a potential witness. She was able to give at least a general outline of how these men looked. It was just a very, very interesting how it went down. And, it seems like these men then took off afterwards. It was suggested that robbery may have been a motive, but I feel like that's always a convenient thing to say when you don't really know why it happened. Robbery was a motive. It was robbery. You know, why would you come and impose as cops then and then rob the place? They're gonna know you were just robbers. Why would you shoot someone dead? You know? Why would you barge into the house and immediately go into the bedroom and kill the people if you're just gonna rob the place? If you have the guns, that should keep them at bay. No, it seemed to me like this was much more likely a, there was something much more deeper at foot. And, you know, maybe whoever did this, you know, they could have confused Roby for another person. I mean, maybe, you know, whoever did it were mixed up in something. They obviously mixed up in something. And maybe they were supposed to come to this apartment complex and shoot someone. But I mean, this apartment complex is so big, you could easily end up going to a wrong unit. That has happened. So maybe that's what happened. And that might explain why nobody really, you know, it seems so strange that they just went into this house, killed the one guy, and then left. I saw nothing in there that even suggested that the place was robbed. So how can you really genuinely say robbery is a motive? I don't know. And I guess Roby's family, they described him as a really nice guy, but a guy that kind of ran with a rough crowd. And they felt like it was possible that he could have maybe been mixed up in drugs. Not necessarily taking them, but he may have been like mixed up in the dealing of drugs, which is always very dangerous work. And it's possible that, you know, he could have made, he could have, he could have pissed off the wrong people. That's entirely possible. The fact that his family kind of theorizes that it maybe have been, they said, you know, marijuana trafficking was possibly what brought this about. Maybe he was mixed up in that and he made a mistake, did something stupid, and people were sent out here to take care of him. And, you know, I don't know, maybe that explains why they didn't kill the girlfriend. The girlfriend wasn't part of the trouble. She was kind of innocent. Maybe there was honor among drug dealers in this case, but that's what I read the family feels might have been the motivation for this murder that happened here back in 1993, was it may have been potentially drug related. And again, I go by this apartment, this is the way that I take, not recently obviously, but I come around the retirement home and go this way to go catch my Mac. So I go past this apartment complex, you know, you on average time several times a week. So I've gone by here numerous times, didn't know that this happened. I live right on the other side of the apartment complex. I'm about 2.5 blocks from where I live is where this case happened. However, that's just one of the two. So I'm going to now take you to where a second cold case murder happened, which is off in this direction past all the Adventist hospitals down there. And this is all like property and parking for them. And I have to get past this and up the hill over to the other side to bring to you this next case that happened roughly 6 years later. So, one of my main objectives of coming out here is the playground up here has been closed for a while. Of course, I just saw Mom and her little kid get out. My hope was to come here and there wouldn't be people here because nobody's supposed to be playing on this playground. Because I'm approaching now, I'm like just a couple blocks south of the apartment complex. It's right back behind me. I live slightly off in this direction. But yeah, right now I'm probably about 4 blocks from where I live. And I'm approaching Cherry Park Elementary School, school that my girlfriend went to, and sadly enough, the site of the second case that I'm discussing. Oh yeah, just some people playing basketball. So it was July 22nd, 1999, the dead of summer, and It was about 6:55 in the morning, so shortly before 7 a.m. The janitor of the elementary school, Cherry Park over here, had, I'm assuming, probably just arrived for work. You know, it's like an hour or two before classes start. Maybe he's there to, get some work done. And he passes by the playground equipment behind me that I just walked by, and I don't want to linger too much around there. I mean, even though it says it's closed, who knows how many people have said they don't care, had their kids run crazy on that. There haven't been a lot of COVID cases in this area. There's only been 15 in this zip code total, so I'm kind of surprised. But I think a lot more people are taking the mask thing a little more seriously. But anyway, as the janitor was, again, I'm assuming probably arriving for work, passing through the area behind me on his way to the building, he discovered the 16-year-old body of a young man named Ram Singh. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing it properly. And his lifeless body was just laying by the playground equipment. I don't know if that playground equipment has always been here. That maybe, but at the playground area, right back there. So the janitor immediately contacted the police when it seen that this young individual was dead, and an autopsy revealed that he had died of a gunshot wound. Now, sometimes when you find a body in an open area like this dying of a gunshot wound, your first thought is suicide, but there wasn't a gun. The gun wasn't found there. It obviously was not a suicide, it was a homicide. And it was believed he'd been shot to death sometime during the middle of the night, probably just a couple hours before the janitor discovered his body here. And I want to say my girlfriend told me once about some murder that happened at the school she went to, and this might be the case she's talking about. My girlfriend would have been like 4.5 when this case happened. And then went to school here, started going, so right about the time. God, now I'm really weirded out, because my girlfriend went to elementary school here. She would have started elementary school in the fall of, I believe the fall of 2000, so just about a year after this case happened. And the theory used, or kind of suggested, because nobody had any idea who had done this, and it didn't seem, there wasn't really a lot of details to be found. I couldn't find any old newspaper articles about it. It seemed like this case, nobody was really paying a lot of attention. And, it's kind of an open area. The school covers a lot of property. But with the playground being right over there, and, there's houses right over here, there's houses over there, there's houses right on the other side of the hedge, over by the end of the playground, you'd think even in the middle of the night, gunfire would have woken someone up in this area. And I never really saw if it was determined, if it was felt that he was maybe shot somewhere else and transported here and his body was just left on the school grounds. That's a possibility. Because I feel like a gunshot really close to your house, even if you're asleep in the dead of night, that would wake somebody up. But it seems like nobody heard anything, nobody saw anything. This body was just randomly found before, well actually I was going to say before the school day, but it was mid-July, so maybe the janitor was just doing kind of regular summer custodial work or something like that. So yeah, school wouldn't have even been in session. And yeah, the theory being played with was it was rumored. I'm going based off of what little information, the police have on the matter. They said it was rumored that Ram Singh maybe had fallen in with a local gang, and that possibly his death could have been the result of some falling out with that gang, some form of gang violence. Maybe the gang that he was associated with was at odds with another gang, and someone from that gang took him out. That is kind of the theory that's been contemplated with his case, is that he may have died and had his body deposited over here as a result of some kind of gang violence. And I'll tell you what, gang violence is the last thing I want to talk about. The last time I did a significant video about gangs in Portland, I ended up deleting my YouTube channel because I was getting death threats. Seriously. So yeah, I learned to pick and choose my subject matter a lot more delicately, but that is what is being theorized. And they also express that this area, because it's not just the school here, but right over here on the other side of this hedge, there's a big park. I think it's just Cherry Park School. And I've done walkthroughs of this park. It's like the closest actual park you can walk around into where I live, but it's sketchy. I won't go here at night. It's still sketchy. I'm pretty sure weird stuff has happened here. I'm pretty sure drug deals have been done in this park. A lot of, even now and back in the 90s, I think this area was even maybe a little bit more sketchy. So this area was kind of regarded as a place where, teens and kind of troublemakers would congregate, which I wholeheartedly believe. Yeah, so if you look over here, this is Cherry Park, right through here, and it's just kind of a long rectangular park with a couple of kind of barely noticeable walking trails. Even the park sign right over here is busted out. Like, that just kind of shows you the state of affairs here. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've seen strange cars. This is kind of a dead-end road. I've seen strange cars parked here, people loitering, staring. I mean, this is just it's an okay park to walk through, but there's a lot of strange characters that hang out around here, even today. And I think when they say this is a popular hangout area for like teens and recluses, I don't know if they meant so much the park or the school, but probably more so the park right across the street. And since this is kind of a place where strange people go to congregate, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe that's where the shooting actually happened. And they deposited him at the school back here, but who's to say? I mean, that's why it's a cold case, is we have barely any information. I was surprised. I literally was only able to find like the Multnomah County's like cold case website, and they have like a general outline of each case. So all the information I got was pretty much from that. I couldn't even really find any newspaper pieces. So this case kind of happened and nobody really paid any attention. And that said, before I reapply my mask, I just want to say, if you, in relation to these two cases or any of that, there's so many unsolved cold cases in Multnomah County. Like, I've gone through the whole listing. There's got to be at least like 100 of them going back to like the 1960s, and these are just two of them. So if you feel like you have any information about them, about these particular cases, or about any number of other possible unsolved crimes, you can contact the Cold Case Homicide Unit for the county at 503-823-0400. And also, if you want to remain anonymous, because you might think you know something, but you may think your life is hanging in the balance, you don't want to become the next cold case, you can leave anonymous tips, obviously. You can contact the tip line at 503-823-HELP, or which translates to 503-823-4357. You can also contact them online at, sorry, I have to look at this. I spent all this time memorizing everything else. www.p3tips.com/823. And isn't that interesting timing that like a police truck just went by me? Probably looked at me like, where's your mask? I got my mask on. Almost. So anyway, if you have any details you can make contact that way. And that being said, I'm getting back into humanity. I'm getting close to the retirement home, and I am going to reapply this obnoxious thing and head back home. I still don't want to be out and about too much. I just thought that was interesting, looking into all these cases and stumbling onto two cases that happened literally just a couple blocks from where I live. So all that said, till next time, guys, this has been Steve, the amateur historian.